opens up the floodgates, makes people more excited about wrestling, and like I said before, wrestlers now have that opportunity like they did back in the 90s when you saw wrestlers jumping ship, going to WCW, going to ECW. Oh, who's going to show up at WWF tonight? Oh, I don't know. We'll find out. Now, even with TNA being revived a little bit, now is their Impact. You're having guys who go to Impact, go to Ring of Honor, going to New Japan, calling people out. Just the other day, we had Sami Callihan talking and calling out Chris Jericho, saying, Chris Jericho, why wasn't I invited to your cruise? Why don't you come here to the Impact Zone? I got a bat. I don't know the whole quote verbatim, but Jericho on Twitter just basically tweeted, okay, now what are we gonna see from that? Are we gonna see a potential Chris Jericho debuting in the TNA? Because now you have that opportunity and all these different avenues as a wrestler to just show up and be wherever you want to be whoever the hell you want to be, and not being held down by these cheesy gimmicks, so to say.
And the reason why I brought up what was passed with these territorial things is because what Cody and the Young Bucks are doing is I think they're kind of taking that model and they're evolving it. Instead of there being these territories now, you have the wrestlers taking control.
Yep. And
like the territories, if you want to compare them, the only thing I take away is that like Ric Flair would fight against the WWF, or he would go to Puerto Rico and fight, or the Dominican Republic. He'd go as the NWA champion. He'd go to all these places.
Yeah.
And that's what Cody's done. That's what the Young Bucks have done as they fought in Ring of Honor and TNA, New Japan. They've all fought there. I feel like Cody and the Young Bucks have kind of started that trend, and there needed to be a big star to do the same thing, and that's where Chris Jericho came in. And Chris Jericho, once he did that and then showed up at Raw 25 and at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then went right back to New Japan to challenge Naito, that was huge.
Yeah, people lost their minds.
People lost their mind. Him being able to do that is such a game changer.
And he's so financially stable. If Vince were to go and say, hey, listen, you're never going to be in WWE again, so what, man? I got so many followers. I got my Fozzy album in my band. I can go wherever I want.
Watching Raw 25, watching Undertaker returned, watching the DX and NWO return, and some of the other people who came back and all the divas, the one person that got the biggest pop was Chris Jericho, and he wore his Alpha Male t-shirt that he made in New Japan. He can do that.
Yeah, nobody else can.
I think one more person needs to make that real turn to not give their competition, but to really add to this whole thing, and that would be CM Punk, who is supposed to be in some capacity at All In.
Well, he's supposed to be signing autographs, from my understanding, but could he be a possible surprise run-in, cost somebody a match?
Who knows? People have been trying to get him. The Young Bucks have been trying to get him to come and be a part of it.
And I think it would be huge. It would put them over even more. I mean, they're getting over right now, but it will take them to the next level where they need to be.
The whole point is not to compete with the WWE, because the WWE is never going to lose.
No, they're like a six-headed monster right now.
All you can do is go in the direction right now that Cody is creating. TNA, jump in on that. Join with Ring of Honor and New Japan. They might as well bring in the wrestlers from Mexico as well, and Lucha Underground.
Yeah, they've been doing that with TNA. Lucha Underground have been having wrestlers come in. You have Johnny Mundo coming in. Now he's Johnny Impact because copyright issues. But you've been having these guys come in. Pentagon Jr., who is amazing in the ring. And he was in the Lucha Underground. Now he's in TNA. He's supposed to be in All In as well, making some sort of appearance in a match.
Yep.
I mean, you have so many. This card is stacked. You have Stephen Amell, who
from Arrow and was on WWE.
You have Young Bucks, who we spoke about already.
Kenny Omega.
Tessa Blanchard. Adam Hangman Page.
Marty Scurll.
Pentagon Jr., which I said.
Yeah, Okada will be in there too.
Penelope Ford. Jay Lethal. Who doesn't want to see the Black Machismo?
Well, if you've been watching Being the Elite, there have been some hints at Black Machismo making a little return. So you got to watch the last couple episodes of Being the Elite.
I only watched a few that you showed me, so I'll have to catch up. But
Yes.
even Rey Mysterio, Matt Cross, Britt Baker.
The list goes on and on.
I'm sure there's
Chelsea
gonna be
Green.
more. Chelsea Green. And they even announced the other day that Earl Hebner is going to be one of the...
Jerry Lynn, too.
Yeah, and Jerry Lynn, both referees for this event.
All In's going to be amazing. And also, they're doing the weekend for their StarCast, where they're going to have podcasts from all over be a part of this event and do a podcast row. I know my friends at High Spot Podcast will be there. So this is going to be just an event that will hopefully change the face of professional wrestling.
Oh, I think it will.
I don't care about it competing. I'm still watching WWE, and you're still going to watch WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch it as much as I used to.
Well, I don't want to, like we said before, we don't want to bash it, but there's too much content now. I mean, Raw is 3 hours. Now there's rumors that SmackDown wants to go to 3 hours.
The pay-per-views are moving up to 4 hours.
The pay-per-views are just dragging on and on. You have NXT on Wednesday, which is an hour. I'll give you that. That's probably the only hour I want to really give to WWE right now is NXT. That's the way it seems to be now. And anybody who comes up from NXT and goes to the main roster, 80% of the time they're buried. They're lost in the shuffle. There's just too many wrestlers, too much going on, and not enough action in the ring.
I've been doing a lot of focusing on the old school stuff. Looking at old school pay-per-views from WCW, WWE, their primetime wrestling, Saturday Night's Main Event.
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff that I've been focusing on, and that's some of the stuff that I kind of want to bring to the podcast is taking a look back at what made wrestling what it is today. So we're going to do that as well as talk about other topics, and we're going to get into more topics as we head into our next segment. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll kind of get a little more into what's going to be changing for Ringside Rumble Radio. And I know you had some stories that you wanted to get into as well.
Of course. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about the changing ways of the wrestling world, and I also have one other topic we'll get into. A little bit of a sad one, but we won't spend so much time on it.
Well, we'll take a break, and we'll be back on Ringside Rumble Radio.
Short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and
pour me out. This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
I'm the best. I'm the best in the world.
Looking for a pipe bomb? Look no further. Here on RRR.
We are back. We are back here on Ringside Rumble Radio, alongside my good friend the Ant-Man, and I, and the Loganator, man.
It's great to be back, man.
It just feels right. It feels good. Just drink it in, man. Just drink it in.
I'm drinking it in, man. I am drinking it way in.
When before the break, we were talking about All In. I briefly talked about Sami Callihan. I wanted to get into a little more of that real fast. I don't know if you watch Impact at all. I mean, I catch it here and there, but they seem like they're trying to make their own. I mean, they went through some financial problems. They have somebody new in charge.
Don Callis is in charge now, right?
Yes. He is the man in charge. He had a call-in on Facebook Live where people could call in and ask questions. And some people ask some interesting questions. Other people, not so interesting. But one idea that came to mind was if you saw the Sami Callihan video, he was walking to the tapings of TNA Impact, and the TNA Impact cameras, they usually kind of come up face up close and personal, nitty-gritty type camera, not your typical WWE interview in the backstage area. It's kind of raw footage. And they were talking to him, and he basically went on a rant talking about how he was mad about not being on Jericho's cruise, how he could show up to ROH whenever he wants. His gimmick is he has this baseball bat, and he just likes to beat the living you-know-what out of people. So he basically called out Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho announced on Twitter, interesting. So, and he's good friends with Don. If you listen to Chris Jericho's podcast, he's praised Don in the past about taking over TNA. So like I said before, perhaps we could see Jericho in TNA.
Well, Sami Callihan's gripe was not being a part of All In or the cruise. So maybe Jericho will invite him on the cruise, and we'll see a match from there.
I don't know. I mean, he has beef with the Young Bucks too, so anything's possible. Are they going to have matches on the cruise? Do you know?
They are.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah, the Young Bucks will be there. Hangman Page will be there. I think Jay Lethal will be there. They signed... our boy Dalton Castle will be there.
Jim Ross just signed on to be on the cruise.
They're going to have the podcast and all the shows. They're all going to be there. It's going to be a fun event for that Jericho cruise.
Mm-hmm. I would like to go, but it's smack in September time, I believe, so it's going to be a little tough getting off. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to make that cruise. Maybe when they come around again, because this is the inaugural cruise, so maybe the next time they do one, we can jump aboard with our show.
I would like that very much. I don't know if you've read in the news or seen the news. I was online the other day, and a very sad story that broke, I believe it was yesterday, or actually Friday, I'm sorry. Former ECW wrestler Rockin' Rebel. Apparently there was a murder-suicide. Not many people know who he is. He basically started when ECW was still the East Coast Wrestling promotion before Paul Heyman took it over and changed it to ECW Extreme Championship Wrestling. So I believe he also had a few dark matches on WCW. There's a few dark matches in WWE, but he was more in the independent scene. He was about 50 years old, and unfortunately, police found that he committed suicide and killed his wife per gunshot wounds. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because do you think, I'm asking the fans out there, do you think this kind of puts a little stain on professional wrestling, just like it did when the whole Chris Benoit incident years ago when it turned out he was supposed to go to a pay-per-view? We all know the story. He was supposed to go to the pay-per-view. Turns out he ended up killing himself, his wife, and his young son. And unfortunately, it was a horrific thing that happened. And I just want to get your tidbit on that. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to say it will not have a negative impact on professional wrestling.
No, even though there's so much coverage on it right now?
Even though there's so much coverage because of the name you mentioned being Chris Benoit. Mm-hmm. That was the big one. Mm-hmm. That was the one that started it all. And they were on Fox News doing all of these shows, and you'd see, Bret Hart come on, you see Mark Mero and Jericho, and they'd all talk about it. and I think it kind of died out